Ladies and gentlemen, we spend our lives chasing applause, approval, and validation, thinking that the louder the world claps for us, the better we must be. But the truth is, the only person you need to impress is the one you see in the mirror. Impressing yourself creates lasting confidence. Impressing others only gives temporary validation. This is not just a statement, it is a shift in how you live your life. Most of us grow up learning how to be liked. We are taught to behave, to blend in, to be the kind of person who others approve of. And for a while that works. You follow the script, you say the right things, you make people nod, smile, applaud. But somewhere deep down, you begin to wonder, am I doing this because I want to, or because they expect me to? There is a strange emptiness in living for applause. The claps fade, the compliments dry up. The praise that once made your day doesn't hit the same anymore. You look around and realize you have become good at pretending to be okay, pretending to enjoy things you hate, pretending to be someone you're not. And the worst part is, even after all the pretending, even after the effort to impress, it still never feels enough. Someone always has more. Someone is always ahead. Someone always looks better. And you? You just keep shrinking inside your own skin. But something magical happens when you flip the lens. When instead of asking, will they like this, you start asking, will I respect myself for doing this? That question changes everything. That is the moment you stop chasing temporary validation and start building real confidence. Because confidence is not loud, it is not flashy, it is not walking into a room thinking you're better than everyone. It is walking in and not needing anyone to tell you that you belong. That kind of confidence, it only comes when you start living in a way that makes you proud of who you are becoming. When you impress yourself, your success becomes personal. It is no longer about the numbers, the claps, or the attention. It is about doing the hard things no one sees. It is about choosing discipline over comfort. It is about saying no when every part of you wants to say yes just to please someone. It is about showing up even when no one else is watching. And slowly, without fanfare or spotlight, you begin to grow into someone you actually like, someone who does not need external approval to feel worthy. Impressing yourself is not about perfection, it is about authenticity. It is waking up in the morning and liking the choices you made yesterday. It is facing the mirror and knowing you are not trying to be someone else. It is failing and still feeling proud that you tried. It is setting your own goals and running your own race, even if nobody claps when you cross your milestones. That kind of life feels quieter, but it is stronger. It is not made of noise. It is built on truth. You do not need to wait for someone to approve your dreams. You do not need likes to validate your talent. You do not need strangers to tell you your worth. What you need is to do things that align with your values, your purpose, your spirit. When you impress yourself, you stop being a people pleaser and start being a soul builder. You stop chasing the next big thing and start appreciating the small wins that no one notices but you. You stop being afraid of judgment because the loudest voice is your own, and it is finally cheering you on. You stop dimming your light to make others comfortable and begin to glow in your truth.
When you live for others' opinions, you lose your identity. It starts quietly. You begin to notice what gets applause, what earns a smile, what keeps the peace. You adjust a little here, change a little there. You mute your laughter because someone once said it was too loud. You hide your dreams because they sounded unrealistic to someone who never dared to dream. You dress a certain way, speak a certain way, walk a certain way, not because it feels natural, but because it feels safe. Slowly, piece by piece, you trade in your authenticity for approval. It seems harmless at first. Just one compromise, one small adjustment. But over time, it becomes a habit. You forget what your favorite color was. You forget what you would have said if no one was listening. You forget what used to make your heart beat fast with excitement. You start asking others for their opinion before trusting your own. You wait for permission to be who you are, not realizing that no one else can give it. And then, one day, you wake up surrounded by people who like the version of you they helped shape, but you do not recognize yourself anymore. Living for others' opinions is like trying to fit into a frame that was never built for you. You contort. You twist, you shrink, but no matter how hard you try, there is always a part of you that sticks out, that does not quite fit, that aches to be free. And when you live this way long enough, you begin to feel like an outsider in your own life. You say yes when you mean no. You smile when you are hurting. You nod in agreement just to avoid conflict. It is exhausting, not because others are demanding, but because you have silenced your own voice so many times that now it barely whispers. Your identity is not a public project. It is not something to be debated, voted on, or edited by popular opinion. It is sacred, it is something only you get to define, but the more you live for others, the more you lose the map that leads back to your own truth. You stop asking, "What do I want?" and start asking, "What do they want from me?" You stop dreaming boldly and start living cautiously. You stop trusting your instincts and start checking the room before speaking. That is not growth. That is fear wearing a polite mask. There will always be people who have something to say. They will question your choices, doubt your abilities, and suggest a better version of you, one that fits into their comfort zone. But you are not made to fit into every room. You are not designed to be everyone's cup of tea. Your thoughts, your emotions, your values, they are not up for approval. The moment you let others' opinions decide who you become, you surrender the power to live your life as your own. It is not about rebellion, it is about alignment. Living true to yourself does not mean rejecting everyone. It means refusing to reject yourself. It means protecting your energy, your time, your space. It means recognizing that the cost of losing yourself is far greater than the benefit of being liked. It means that the version of you that bends to please others may gain followers, but will never find peace. You will always feel a quiet unrest, a small ache, a subtle loneliness that no amount of praise can fix, because you know deep down you are not being honest with yourself. When you start filtering your life through the lens of what will people say, you begin to walk through the world like a guest, not a resident. You start treating your ideas like they need validation. You begin to decorate your life for display, not for living. And no matter how beautiful it looks from the outside, it feels hollow on the inside. Because nothing feels heavier than the weight of a life built on borrowed opinions. Real growth starts when you stop performing for approval. As long as you are trying to fit someone else's idea of success, beauty, or worth, you are holding yourself back. Growth does not happen under the spotlight. It happens in the quiet, uncomfortable places where no one is clapping, no one is watching, and no one is validating your steps. But we have been conditioned to believe that progress must be visible, that every improvement should come with praise. That mindset keeps you stuck, because instead of focusing on becoming better, you focus on looking better. Instead of learning, you start performing. Instead of evolving, you start entertaining. Performance is exhausting because it is not rooted in truth. It is rooted in fear. Fear of being misunderstood, of being ignored, of being rejected. And so, you begin to act out a version of yourself that looks strong, looks smart, looks happy. But deep down, you know it is just a mask, and masks may get you attention, but they will never bring you fulfillment. There is no real growth in playing a role. There is only stagnation hidden behind a curtain of applause. Growth is messy, it is clumsy. It looks like failure and sounds like silence. It does not always photograph well. Sometimes it feels like you are taking 10 steps back just to move 1 step forward, but that is the truth of becoming. And the moment you stop trying to look like you have it all figured out, you give yourself the space to actually figure it out. The pressure to impress disappears, the noise fades, and what is left is you, raw and real, ready to face the hard work of change. Performing for approval forces you to constantly ask, am I doing enough for them to notice me? But growth asks, am I doing enough for me to respect myself? That shift in question is powerful. It moves you from surface to depth, from noise to clarity, from imitation to originality, because growth is not about getting better at pretending. It is about getting braver at being real, and no one can do that for you. The truth is, people's approval is unpredictable. One day they will love your ambition, the next day they will call it arrogance. One day they will cheer for your courage, the next day they will question your choices. If your growth is tied to their applause, you will forever be at the mercy of their moods. But when you start growing for yourself on your own terms, you build something unshakable. You learn to clap for yourself, not because you did something flashy, but because you did something honest. Real growth feels like saying no when you used to say yes out of fear. It feels like walking away from comfort because you know it is keeping you small. It feels like outgrowing old beliefs, shedding old versions of yourself, even when it hurts. It feels like showing up when no one notices and still choosing to stay consistent. These are not things people usually celebrate, but they are the foundations of real transformation. You do not need to perform. You need to be present. You need to listen to your own voice without turning the volume down to please someone else. You need to take up space without apologizing for existing. You need to make mistakes without letting them define your worth. And you need to grow, not because someone told you to, but because deep down, you know there is more to you than what they see. Growth does not come with a standing ovation. It comes with quiet victories, unseen progress, and the slow, steady rebuilding of your truth. Inner peace is more powerful than outer praise. The world often teaches us to chase recognition. From a young age, we are told to be the best, to stand out, to win. And every time we achieve something, there is applause. That applause feels good. It becomes addictive. We begin to measure our value through it. The more people praise us, the more we believe we are doing something right. But what happens when the praise stops? What happens when the applause fades, and all you are left with is yourself? Outer praise is loud but short-lived. It comes from people who only see the surface. They do not know what it costs you to smile. They do not understand the battles you fight in silence. They only clap when you win, not when you survive. And so you begin to realize that applause is a poor source of peace. It can lift your mood for a moment, but it cannot carry you through dark seasons. It cannot hold you when your soul is tired. It cannot quiet the voices in your head when everything feels like too much. Inner peace, on the other hand, is silent but steady. It does not need an audience. It does not depend on validation. It is that quiet knowing inside you that says, I am enough, even if no one says it. It comes from alignment, when your actions match your values. When you do what is right, not what is popular. When you choose integrity over applause. When you can lay your head down at night and sleep in peace, not because the world approved, but because your conscience is clear. You find inner peace when you stop chasing every opportunity to be seen and start choosing the path that feels right to you. It means saying no to things that look good but feel wrong. It means walking away from people who admire the version of you that is not even real. It means building a life that makes sense to your soul, not just to your social media feed. It means understanding that not everything worth doing will be noticed, and not everything noticed is worth doing. Outer praise makes you chase, inner peace makes you stay. Praise pulls you into performance, peace pulls you into purpose. Praise tells you to impress, peace tells you to express. Praise fades the moment the crowd walks away. Peace stays even when you are all alone. That is why people with inner peace seem unbothered. It is not because life is easy. It is because they have stopped outsourcing their self-worth. You will never control how people see you. Some will misunderstand you. Some will judge you unfairly. Some will praise you one day and criticize you the next. That is the nature of the world, but when you build your foundation on inner peace, you stop needing their praise to feel powerful. You stop waiting for approval to move forward. You stop performing and start living. There is strength in peace. The strength to walk away from drama, the strength to choose silence over argument, the strength to stand firm in your decisions even if they are not applauded, the strength to focus on your journey without looking sideways, the strength to let go of things that no longer serve your growth. Praise may bring you attention, but peace brings you freedom. It frees you from comparison. It frees you from pressure. It frees you from the fear of judgment, and in that freedom, you finally begin to live, not as someone else wants you to, but as you were meant to. Peace is not the absence of problems. It is the presence of clarity. It is knowing who you are, what you stand for, and being okay even if no one else understands it. You are enough, not because others say it, but because you believe it. This is not just a comforting phrase. It is a truth that must take root deep within you. The problem is, most people do not believe it. They wait for someone else to confirm their worth, to give them a stamp of approval, to finally say, "You've made it." And in that waiting, they forget how to validate themselves. They tie their sense of value to compliments, grades, promotions, relationships, and social status. When the compliments stop, they feel invisible. When the results fall short, they feel like failures. When others pull away, they crumble. That is the cost of letting your worth depend on external voices. You were not born with self-doubt. It was given to you. It came from comparisons, from criticism, from trying to meet expectations that were never yours to carry. Somewhere along the way, someone made you believe that you were only enough if you achieved more, looked better, worked harder, spoke softer, or lived quieter. And you believed it. You started measuring your enoughness by their standards. You started bending yourself into shapes that were not made for you. You lost your voice while trying to be accepted. And worst of all, you forgot that you were already whole before anyone ever gave you their opinion. Being enough has nothing to do with being perfect. It has everything to do with being real. Real means you are allowed to have flaws. You are allowed to take your time. You are allowed to make mistakes, learn, grow, and try again. You are allowed to feel deeply, to rest when you are tired, to speak up when something feels wrong. None of that makes you less worthy. None of that makes you a failure. In fact, all of that is proof that you are human. And that is more than enough. You cannot spend your life waiting to be enough in someone else's eyes. Because the truth is, no matter how much you do, there will always be someone who thinks you should have done more. Someone who will say you are too much or not enough. And if you keep chasing their approval, you will keep running in circles, exhausted and empty. But when you turn inward and decide, "I am enough as I am," you break free from the need to perform. You stop asking for permission to exist. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You start showing up as yourself, not a version edited for someone else's comfort. Believing that you are enough does not mean you stop growing. It means you stop growing from a place of shame. It means you stop trying to fix yourself just to be accepted. Growth becomes an act of love, not desperation. You grow because you care about your life, not because you are trying to prove your worth. That is a powerful shift. That is when your growth becomes rooted, not rushed, purposeful, not performative. And yes, it takes time. It takes unlearning. It takes waking up every day and choosing to believe in yourself, even when the world is silent. It takes catching your inner critic and replacing it with truth. It takes recognizing that your worth is not based on what you do, but who you are. That your story, your voice, your presence, it all matters, even when no one claps. You are not a project waiting to be finished. You are not a role waiting to be cast. You are a whole, living, breathing human being, worthy of love, peace, and belonging. Not someday, not when you improve, but right now. You are enough when you are laughing, when you are crying, when you are still figuring things out. You are enough even when you do not feel like it. Because worth is not a feeling, it is a fact, and the sooner you believe it, the sooner you start living from a place of quiet, unshakable power. Approval is fleeting, but self-respect is forever. In the beginning, it might feel like approval is everything. You want to be liked, you want your choices to be applauded, you want your path to be accepted and admired. And when you do get that approval, it feels like a warm spotlight, but that light fades quickly. The compliments stop. The claps go quiet, the messages slow down, and suddenly you are left wondering why it never feels like enough. That is because approval from others was never designed to last. It is temporary, it is conditional. It depends on their mood, their beliefs, their experiences, not on your truth. You begin to realize how unreliable it is. One day people praise your strength, the next day they question your motives. One moment they admire your boldness, the next moment they say you are too much. If your confidence is built on their words, it will rise and fall with their opinions, but self-respect, that stays, it anchors you, it does not waver when people change, it does not disappear when you make a mistake. It is not tied to what others think, it is tied to what you know about yourself. Self-respect means you are not willing to betray your own values just to be liked. It means walking away from conversations where your voice is not heard. It means setting boundaries even if it makes others uncomfortable. It means saying no when yes would mean self-abandonment. It means being able to look yourself in the mirror and not flinch. That kind of strength does not come from applause. It comes from facing yourself, from choosing your dignity over your image, from being okay with not being understood. When you chase approval, you often shrink. You try to become palatable. You start editing your truth so it does not offend. You change your tone, your words, your decisions just to be accepted. But with each change, a piece of your spirit goes quiet. You lose the rawness that made you real. You begin to live a version of your life that looks polished on the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. It is not that people forced you to change. It is that you handed them the pen and let them rewrite your story. Self-respect is reclaiming that pen. It is deciding that your life is not a democracy, that your worth is not up for vote, that your choices do not need a round of applause before they matter. It is a quiet but fierce decision to stop living on other people's terms. It is not loud, it does not need to be, it is steady, and that steadiness is what carries you through the moments when no one claps for you, when no one posts about you, when no one praises your growth, but you still keep showing up because you know you are living right by your own soul. There will be times when approval feels good. It will still make you smile, but the difference is you will no longer need it to feel whole. You will enjoy it, but you will not depend on it. You will stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Am I proud of who I am becoming?" That shift frees you. It lifts the weight of constant performance. It returns your energy back to where it belongs within you. Self-respect builds a foundation that nothing can shake, not rejection, not criticism, not failure. Because it is not about being perfect, it is about being true. It is about choosing yourself, not in arrogance, but in honor. It is about knowing that being liked is pleasant, but being respected, especially by your own heart, that is priceless. That is what stays with you long after the noise has faded and the crowd has moved on. Loving yourself is not arrogance, it is awareness. Most people confuse self-love with pride, but they are not the same. Arrogance demands attention. It needs to be seen, heard, praised. It shouts loudly, even when it has nothing to say. It wears masks, always worried about how it appears, but self-love is quiet. It does not need applause. It is not loud or showy. It is a calm recognition of your value, your limits, your worth. It is not about believing you are better than others. It is about no longer believing you are less. There is nothing arrogant about treating yourself with kindness. It is not arrogant to say no when you are tired. It is not arrogant to walk away from toxic situations. It is not arrogant to protect your peace, to honor your feelings, to demand respect. You would not call a flower arrogant for blooming. You would not call the moon arrogant for glowing. Then, why call yourself arrogant for simply owning your space, your beauty, your voice? Loving yourself begins when you stop fighting your reflection, when you stop editing your personality to fit in, when you stop hiding your quirks, your flaws, your softness. It begins when you look at yourself not with judgment, but with understanding, not with shame, but with gentleness. It begins when you realize you are not here to earn love through performance. You are here to remember that love starts from within. Self-love is not a spa day or an Instagram quote. It is the daily decision to show up for yourself, even when no one else does. It is telling yourself the truth, even when it hurts. It is forgiving yourself for the things you did when you did not know better. It is choosing to be your own friend, especially on the days when your inner critic is the loudest. It is not a destination. It is a relationship, and like any real relationship, it requires honesty, patience, and care. When you do not love yourself, you start settling. You let people treat you poorly. You chase validation. You over-explain. You people. Please until there is nothing left of you. You lower your standards in hopes that someone will see your worth. But when you begin to love yourself, that changes. You stop accepting crumbs when you know you deserve the whole table. You stop begging for respect. You stop doubting your worth every time someone else fails to see it. You start choosing peace over approval, growth over comfort, truth over performance. Loving yourself means you know who you are when no one is watching. It means you do not collapse every time someone walks away. It means you are no longer looking for someone to come save you. Because you have already learned how to save yourself, it is not about being full of yourself, it is about being full of truth. The truth that you are not defined by your past, that your worth is not attached to your productivity, that your value does not shrink based on someone else's inability to see it. Self-love looks different for everyone. For some, it is setting boundaries. For others, it is resting without guilt. For some, it is starting over. For others, it is finally speaking up. But no matter what it looks like, the root is the same. It is a deep, steady commitment to treat yourself as someone worthy of compassion, safety, and care. Not someday, but now. When you start loving yourself, the world changes not because the world becomes kinder, but because you stop accepting anything less than kindness. You walk differently, you speak differently, you make decisions not from fear but from alignment, and in doing so, you give others permission to do the same. You lead not through perfection, but through example. You stop trying to prove your worth and start living like it is already yours. People who matter will accept the real you without needing to be impressed. In a world that is obsessed with image, this truth often gets buried beneath filters, performances, and carefully curated personalities. We are taught to shine, to sell ourselves, to stand out, but not always to be real, and so we start to edit ourselves. We say things that sound good, not necessarily true. We hide the mess, the confusion, the vulnerability. We try to impress, to be liked, to be chosen. But the people who truly matter do not need to be dazzled. They need you to be you. You can spend years molding yourself into what you think others want: smoother, quieter, louder, more ambitious, less emotional, more agreeable. And maybe it works for a while. You get the attention, you win the applause, you get invited into circles you thought you needed to be in. But at some point, something feels off. You start feeling invisible in a room full of people who only know a version of you that was created to impress them. They are clapping, but you are lonely. They are listening, but they are not really hearing you, because what they like is not actually you. It is the performance. The people who truly matter are not looking for a perfect performance. They are not waiting for you to entertain them. They are not interested in how well you fit into a mold. They are drawn to your depth, not your decoration. They are curious about your truth, not your titles. They want the version of you that laughs freely, speaks openly, and is not afraid to be a little messy, a little unsure, a little real. That version, the unpolished, unfiltered, unperformed version, is where connection lives. There is peace in being around people who do not need you to shrink or rise or act. People who let you breathe, who understand your silences, who respect your boundaries, who are not keeping score. That kind of acceptance cannot be earned through performance. It only happens when you show up as yourself. And that takes courage, because the world often rewards masks. It claps louder for perfection than for honesty. But the relationships built on performance are fragile. The moment you stop performing, they crack. You will know who matters by how safe you feel in their presence. You will not feel the need to over-explain, to sugarcoat, to impress. You will be able to speak and be understood, to fail and still be respected, to grow and still be loved. These are the people worth keeping, the ones who accept your truth, not just your highlights, the ones who can handle your bad days, not just your best behavior, the ones who challenge you, not control you, who see your flaws and still choose to stay. Being accepted for who you are is one of the most healing experiences in life. It repairs wounds that performance never could. It reminds you that you are not too much, not too little. You are exactly enough. And once you experience that kind of acceptance, you stop settling for anything less. You stop trying to twist yourself into shapes for people who were never meant to be close. You start choosing presence over popularity, connection over convenience, real over impressive. You are not here to impress everyone. You are here to be authentic, and the more you honor your true self, the more you attract the right kind of people, the kind who love you, not the idea of you, the kind who are not distracted by your appearance, but moved by your presence, the kind who would rather hear your truth than your rehearsed speech. They will not need you to be extraordinary. They will just need you to be honest, because to them, that honesty is already extraordinary.